Week 1 of the NFL season is officially in the books, and because we have seen so many teams play very well and very bad, a lot of hot takes have been going online. So in today's video, I'm going to be reacting to some of your submitted hot takes. Subscribe and like the video if you do go on to enjoy. Let's hop into it. And our first hot take comes from Woodrow Godshine 1654. It's week 1. Calm down. I wanted to start with this one because I think it's a good way to start off this video. We are only in week 1. If this was week 17 or week 16, we're having a completely different conversation about some of these teams. But we are so early into the season. It is one freaking week. So for all these hot takes and for any hot take you see online, let's just calm down. We need to see more football. None of these teams' seasons are over, and none of these teams' seasons are complete. We still have a lot of time left to go. A lot of good, a lot of bad, a lot of ugly. We're going to see some players play better. Brian Thomas Jr. had 1 catch this week. Do you really think he's going to have a bad season? Probably not. We also saw a bunch of dudes like Hollywood Brown, who hasn't been good in a few years, go off for 99 receiving yards. Is that going to be consistent? I don't know. Probably not. So let's not overreact to one team playing very well, and let's not overreact to another team playing very bad. With that said, there are things we did learn from week 1, but a lot of things will change as time does go on. So take everything in this video and every reaction, everything you hear online with a grain of salt. We got a long way to go. Evan Lopez says Micah Parsons is the best defensive player in the league since he is a Packer. Now, I do believe this guy was maybe being a little trolly. He might be a Packers fan, but I will actually look at the argument here for Micah Parsons being the best defensive player. I still think it's Myles Garrett. I still think Myles Garrett is arguably the best player in the entire NFL, and I think he's by far the most impactful defensive player. But from what we saw last night with a Micah Parsons who has not been in training camp, has, some sort of back injury going on, who still went out there, recorded a sack, and was such a massive part of that Packers defensive game plan. And frankly, he kind of disrupted everything for the Detroit Lions. I do think there's an argument to be made that Micah Parsons is maybe the somewhere in the top 5 best defensive players in the league. Again, I would probably say Myles Garrett. Then I would probably have Patrick Surtain in the conversation there too. Then I think Micah Parsons, Nick Bosa, TJ Watt, all those guys sort of have this big bubble of conversation where you could argue certain points and nobody's really wrong, but nobody's really right. Micah Parsons is an incredible player. He's going to be such an impactful guy for the Green Bay Packers. We have a couple more hot takes on that Packers game, so I'll share some of my thoughts about the game a little bit later. By the way, I've already done a reaction video, so if you want to see my reaction, go ahead and check it out. I think Micah Parsons had a very good game. I thought he was impactful wherever they lined him up at. It felt like Detroit had such a huge emphasis on slowing down Micah Parsons, and it allowed a Rashawn Gary and a Lucas Van Ness and Isaiah McGuire to all have sacks and to all get pressure on Jared Goff consistently. Micah Parsons is a difference maker. He is going to help this defense turn into an elite unit. And with the offense playing like they did last night, this team could be very, very good. John G928 says Jalen Hurts MVP. Again, overreaction here. It's only 1 week, but in that 1 week, in I guess the Thursday game, Jalen Hurts looked good. He looked really good. Now, I think it was sort of a tale of 2 halves for Jalen Hurts. I thought the first half prior to, I'm saying first half, but I really mean prior to the weather delay, which was like really early in the third quarter, I thought Jalen Hurts was playing really good football. And then the weather delay happened, and then Dallas made some adjustments, and I feel like Philadelphia did not do a great job of adjusting. And frankly, I thought the Dallas Cowboys probably should have won that game, which would not have looked good for Jalen Hurts. Now, Hurts played exceptionally well in the first half, not really throwing the football, but managing the game, making the right throws, not putting the ball in harm's way, and using his legs in such a effective manner. The amount of times that the Dallas Cowboys had great coverage on the field, A.J. Brown locked up, Devontae Smith locked up, Dallas Goedert locked up, nobody's open, and Jalen Hurts would just have such a free lane to go make a play, and he consistently did so. But in that after the weather delay portion of the game, Hurts was not running as effectively. The Cowboys were stuffing the run. There was nothing really open in the passing game. Hurts is not a quarterback that makes super tight window throws. He can make big plays downfield. He can do all the right things in the RPO, in the screen, in the underneath game, even intermediate to a certain extent. And he really makes a ton of plays with his legs. But as a intermediate to, longer distance thrower, he is a little bit limited. Not to say he's a bad quarterback. He's an awesome quarterback. I think he's a top 10 quarterback quite comfortably. But when it comes to being a tight window throw type of guy, like a Burrow or Allen or Lamar, that's not quite his game, which is fine because the Philadelphia Eagles don't need that to be his game. But in terms of him winning an MVP, it does feel a little bit far-fetched. I think that right now, after week 1, Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen are probably the two favorites. Yet again, wow, shocking, not really. I think Justin Herbert now has an argument there after week 1. We'll see if he can keep it up. I think Hurts has an argument to be made. He will probably be in the conversation throughout the year. We'll see if he can keep up his level of play in both the passing game and the running game, because I thought week 1 was a positive sign for half the game, and then I started to see some of the limitations of this offense when they could not get Saquon Barkley going, with Dickerson being injured, and the Eagles defense did not play that great in that game. So all those things make me a bit pessimistic on Hurts winning an MVP, but I do think it is totally possible. Another MVP one here, John Jeffrey 741 says, Daniel Jones MVP. Yeah, I mean, this one's already a lock. Daniel Jones, greatest quarterback in the NFL, greatest comeback story, MVP, Offensive Player of the Year, Pro Bowl, All-Pro, Super Bowl MVP, any other accolades. Let's just go ahead and give it to Daniel Jones. If you guys want to be a part of next week's Week 2 Hot Take video, keep an eye on my community tab where I will be posting a Hot Takes poll where you can leave a comment with your hot takes, and then I will screenshot them and I'll let you know if you're going to be a part of the next video. Lord Crimson says, Lions are not good without Ben Johnson and Aaron Glenn. All right, ladies and gentlemen, this one might be the biggest overreaction that I've seen actually a lot online. I've seen a lot of conversations about, is Dan Campbell a Ben Johnson and an Aaron Glenn merchant? And let's keep it a buck. That Lions game was very ugly. They got plastered. They got destroyed. All right. They were inefficient in the red zone. They were ineffective scoring the ball. Turnovers. It was such an uncharacteristically bad rushing game for what has been a Lions team that has been so dominant running the football. That Lions team that we saw on the field yesterday did not look like the Detroit Lions that we have become accustomed to. They did not look good at all, either offensively nor defensively. Defensively, couldn't get pressure on Jordan Love. They couldn't stuff the run efficiently. They were having trouble in coverage. It was just a bad day. In totality, it was a bad day for both sides. If there's one thing you can take from this game, it is now your two coordinators have a game under their belt. They now know what they can adjust, what they can do better. If this Lions team, though, with their schedule, if they come out the gate slow, the Lions will lose this division. The Packers look really good. We're tonight going to see the Minnesota Vikings and the Chicago Bears, so one of those teams will be 1-0 in the division. The Detroit Lions cannot afford to have a slow start this season. They have to get the ball rolling eventually, because if not, the Packers will run away with the division, and the Lions will be fighting for a wild card spot. Now, again, let's not overreact. It's week 1. The Detroit Lions could come out there next week and ball their ass off and then go out and beat the Green Bay Packers in a few weeks. They will get a chance to have redemption versus this Packers team. For now, the Packers look like the better team. They clearly do. They dominated them from start to finish. They look better on both sides, offensively and defensively. But let's not jump to any conclusions. The Lions have a shit ton of talent. I do not think this Lions team is cooked. I do not think they're a bad team. Let's be patient. No Ben Johnson, no Aaron Glenn. Those are two excellent coordinators. Aaron Glenn, by the way, great coaching debut for the New York Jets. Tonight we see Ben Johnson make his debut, so I'm sure he'll do a good job. They lost two excellent play callers and a starting center, and their best edge rushers coming off a major leg injury. So let's give this team some time. Let's not jump to conclusions quite yet. However, if they lose next week, we can start to have some conversations. Zach Zent 8287 says, a lot of mid in the NFC. I think this is a pretty good argument. Now, me and my co-host on the First and 10 podcast, we had a conversation, and in part of this conversation, I kind of said something along the lines of, the AFC looks significantly better than the NFC, and I really do think that's the case. When you look at a lot of these top contending teams, maybe besides Buffalo and Baltimore, because those teams right now look like clearly the best two teams in the NFL, as we saw last night. What a freaking game. We'll get to that here in a little bit. But a lot of the top contending teams, especially in the NFC, they all have some sort of major flaw that could, emphasis on could, potentially hold them back. For the Philadelphia Eagles, the defending champs, a lot of changes on the defensive end. New CB2, new edge rushers, new interior pieces, a lot of changes going on over there. Detroit, a team that last year was arguably the best team in the league at a certain point. 2 new coordinators, a new starting center, some changes on the defense, a lot of things going on in that building. The Green Bay Packers are the one team in the NFC that actually played very well in their first game. I'll give the Rams credit. They did win that game. They only scored 14 points though, so that wasn't very good. And you look around, the Cardinals, they barely beat the Saints. You didn't really see too much from the Niners. Like, the Niners just look so bad on special teams. That looks like their Achilles heel, and the injuries. Seattle, a team that I thought was going to be very good, had a hard time moving the football without Jackson Smith and Jigba. I mean, outside of JSN, they couldn't do nothing. They couldn't run the ball that well. They couldn't pass the ball. That was concerning. Giants got schooled. The Commanders looked good, but it wasn't a great day for them. I guess tonight we'll see what the Bears and the Vikings look like. I would suppose that those would probably be the 2 teams that could elevate this conference. But yeah, the NFC just, it looks like there's some competitive teams, but those upper echelon teams minus the Green Bay Packers did not play well. Compare that to the AFC, where we just saw arguably the best game maybe of the past couple seasons in the first week of the season in the Ravens and Buffalo. 2 excellent teams right there that played excellent football, not defensively, but offensively. The LA Chargers had a massive win versus the Kansas City Chiefs. We all know the Chiefs have their issues, but you still got Mahomes, you still got Reed. They should be fine. Houston, very disappointing showcase out there. Denver, a little disappointing as well. But then you see the Pittsburgh Steelers and the New York Jets have a low-key classic out there, which was a very fun game. I just feel like there was more energy in the AFC this week, more so than the NFC. Not saying that every NFC did bad this week. Obviously, the Packers played great, but it just felt like there was something missing in the NFC, whereas in the AFC, you can really tell they have some powerhouses. I still think the Eagles, probably the Packers now. I still believe in the Lions enough to think that those are the powerhouses in the NFC, but we'll wait and see, because I didn't love what I saw from the Detroit Lions. I liked some of the things what I saw from Philly, but I also didn't like some things. Green Bay, I mean, I loved everything I saw from Green Bay. AFC, though, they look like the better conference right now, and if I had money, I would put a decent amount of it on the AFC to probably win this year's Super Bowl. Again, not saying they will, but it's potentially possible. Vance Carlson, 1672, says, my other hot take is that the New York Giants can just not have nice things. I feel so bad for Giants fans. Their team lost as usual, and their former quarterback, whom they cut last year, had a career game. Yeah, this was not a good week for Giants fans. And it's weird because it felt like there was so much momentum for this Giants team after a really productive preseason. There's all this hype with Jackson Dart, all this hype about Abdul Carter. Even myself, I started to kind of buy the hype a little bit. I started thinking, man, this Giants team could be a 7-win team or an 8-win team in what is a brutal schedule. But after week 1, it just sort of reaffirmed everything that a lot of people were saying, that this offense just is not good. Now, again, it's week 1, but I didn't really see any life from this offense. The line didn't play good. The running game was non-existent. Russell Wilson was, I mean, he did his job, I suppose. He didn't turn the ball over, but he was very conservative. Neighbors got going. Wan'Dale Robinson got going. But that's about it for the offensive end. The defense did, I guess, their job. They held a really good Commanders offense to 21 points. But the Giants went up against the Commanders defense that is not that great, and they've scored 6 points. Yes, they got to the red zone a couple times. They had to settle for field goals. But this is a Giants team that just cannot figure it out on the offensive end. And again, on the podcast, me and my co-host, we were discussing the possibility of, what does this loss do to Brian Daboll? Because yet again, Brian Daboll, offensive coach, cannot get his offense going. At some point, you have to think Jackson Dart might start. He might get some reps, because if I'm Daboll and I know my job is on the line, I'm not going to consistently shred out Russell Wilson to save my job. I have to eventually show some sort of promise, some sort of future, and that future would probably be Jackson Dart. So this Giants team, they just have to figure it out on the offensive end. They clearly have defensive talent. They have the pieces. I think they have the personnel offensively to be a productive unit, but they need to improve this offensive line. I think it starts this offseason, and I think they have to give Jackson Dart a shot some point this year. I'm looking at that Patriots game right before their bye week as a really good chance for them to get Jackson Dart some playing time, then a bye, and then have him start for the rest of the season and see if he can show flashes. But after this week 1 loss with how bad the offense looked, I feel worse now about the Giants than I did prior to the season. Granted, I didn't have the Giants like very high on my power rankings. They were in the late 20s, but still, I feel worse about them now than I did a few days ago. Alex Dad, 84. Ravens took their foot off the pedal. Lamar was better for 3 quarters until coaching sabotaged them. Yeah, well, I wouldn't say coaching sabotaged them. I would say the Derrick Henry fumble sabotaged them. That was the catalyst to getting Buffalo back into this game. The Baltimore Ravens were up double digits in late in the fourth quarter. You get the ball back, you run out the clock, or you get some first downs, you really minimize this game. Instead, what do? Fumble the ball, give the Bills some life. They then make the game even closer. Then you have a 3-and-out from Baltimore. Look, the Ravens, they were dominant in this game. The box score obviously says Buffalo won, but the Ravens were the better team for 3.5 quarters. But the Bills were able to hang around the rim. They were able to drive when they needed to, and all they needed was 1 or 2 breaks, and they got that, ironically, in the closing minutes of the game. And yet again, this Ravens team just cannot find ways to finish off their games. They have consistently done this throughout their time, where they look so good and dominant, but they just lose a game late that they probably should not have lost. This game, they were the better team. They were so good on the offensive end for 3.5 quarters. Lamar was playing out of his mind. Derrick Henry, my God, he was making so many plays. Zay Flowers was having a day. I mean, they were dominant. Defensively, they didn't play as well, but they were doing a decent job at, limiting Josh Allen. They were forcing him out of the pocket, making him make some special plays, and Josh Allen will do that occasionally, especially in these premier matchups. But, I thought the Ravens defense did enough to win this game until late, where they kind of took their foot off the pedal, and so did the offense, where the offense just made the mistakes down the stretch. I did not like how conservative they did get later in the game. I would have liked to have seen this team be very aggressive in passing the football with Lamar Jackson, which they were so successful with early in this game. And when you have the chance, then you give it to Derrick Henry. Give him some play action, give him some easy stuff. I just felt like I don't want to blame the coaching, because coaching, is not the reason why Derrick Henry fumbled. And Derrick Henry, by the way, the fumble happened. He played so well, though. But, I mean, what a game, though. For the Buffalo Bills side of things, holy crap. I mean, this was a massive marquee win. You want to talk about putting a statement out there? You're down big. Fans are leaving. You're at your own crib. Everyone thinks, the game's over. I even put on my IG and Instagram, or Twitter, I meant. By the way, follow me, link in the description. I even put the Ravens are the best team in the league. The Bills just lost. Oh my God. And then next thing you know, slowly but surely, everything fell in place for this Buffalo Bills team. And next thing you know, the Buffalo Bills win this game. Now, in all reality, either one of these two teams, could have won this game. I thought the Ravens should have won it. The Bills ended up winning. I think the Bills are probably now the best team in the league because they just beat the Ravens. I think Baltimore's right there. If you still have Baltimore number 1, I really don't blame you. They should not have lost this game. I think these are the 2 best teams in the NFL. And if I had money on a Super Bowl champion, it would be one of these 2 teams. This was an incredible matchup. Thank you to the NFL for playing this game on week 1. What a way to start the season off. If you're a Ravens fan, it's frustrating, but it's week 1. This also happened last year against the Chiefs, where they were making the comeback and they had the foot out of balance, that whole crazy thing. So the Ravens will be fine, but yeah, they would have liked to have won this one. In a Zuma Prime X says, cold take, but my hot take is that Aaron Rodgers will be in the MVP conversation at the end of the season. So a couple MVP ones here. Aaron Rodgers in the MVP conversation. I mean, if he continues to play at this level, then yeah, he's going to be in the conversation for sure. I don't want to jump to conclusions. It was one excellent game from Rodgers, a game in which the Jets, really kept this game competitive. I thought Rodgers just had to do enough to win this game, but he had to play very well. A little disappointed in the Steelers defense, but Aaron Rodgers, yeah, I mean, great game. Right now, you could argue that after week 1, he's a league MVP, but, let's wait and see how he's playing after, week 18. If he's still playing at this level or close to this level, then yeah, I think he has an argument. He was efficient. He had to take some sacks. The offensive line is still a work in progress. The rushing attack wasn't particularly insane or anything like that. Far from bad, though. But with limited weapons, DK Metcalf had a drop in this one, but with limited weapons, he made the most of them. He had a touchdown to Ben Skoranek. We saw Calvin Austin make some nice catches. DK Metcalf had a nice day. A bunch of tight ends were used throughout the day. I think there's some positive things to take away from this offense. I'm not going to jump to conclusions on whether or not Aaron Rodgers will win MVP, but let's wait and see. Great week 1 game. Very positive sign from the Steelers offense. Let's just wait. Dinosaur Jones says Lions are cooked. Packers are Super Bowl contenders. So this one's kind of like 2 hot takes in one. Lions are cooked. Bit of an overreaction. let's wait and see. It's way too early. We just saw a bad performance from two new coordinators that need time to grow and develop. So let's be patient for them. Packers Super Bowl contenders. I think it's a pretty fair argument that even though it's just 1 week, that we saw enough from this defense to say this is a Super Bowl caliber defense. And as long as Jordan Love does not turn the ball over, as long as they run the football effectively, and as long as this line stays healthy, they're in the conversation for sure. Again, I still look at the AFC and I say Kansas City, Baltimore, maybe even LA, the Chargers, and probably, well, of course, the Ravens too. I think all four of those teams maybe would still be in front of the Packers, but I think the Packers are maybe even, I don't know, somewhere in the top 5. Maybe they're 4, maybe they're 3. They're in my top 5 probably right now after week 1. Very dominant game versus a really good Lions team that has a bunch of talented players that, this Lions team should have been, having a lot of confidence. They should have been ready to go. They didn't look it. This Packers team did. They outplayed them. So yeah, Packers Super Bowl contenders. Yes, it's an overreaction, but I think it's a fair one to have after this week 1 beatdown. The Cap NZ82 says the Miami needs to rebuild and stop pretending they are good. Well, I don't think they're pretending to be good. I think any Dolphins fan will tell you that they are absolutely cooked. What a horrendous way to start this season off for them. Defensively, you could not stop Daniel Jones. And Indiana Jones played great. I'll give him that. But in his career, this was by far and away the best game I've ever seen from Daniel Jones, ever. He'd probably even say that. That was an incredible game from Daniel Jones. And this Dolphins defense let it happen. The offense, on the other hand, multiple turnovers. Terrible on third down. Just couldn't do nothing right. Tua was bad. He was not good. When they ran the ball with Devon A-Chain, they had some success, but not consistent. The play calling was weird. I thought the game plan was bizarre. Tua looked horrendous. He looked bad. This Dolphins team, look, even if they do kind of right the ship and they get their act together, it's pretty clear and obvious this team has a very, very capped ceiling as like an 8-9 win team at best. So if you're stuck in that boat where you're paying Tua, you're paying Tyreek, I think Waddle, I want to say he got paid. You have all those guys on defense that have big contracts. At some point, you have to realize we're not winning a championship. We do not have the cap flexibility. We will not be getting high enough draft picks. We just do not have the capability of putting together a capable roster. And then you look at the culture. It does not look good. There is stuff going on the sidelines with Tyreek Hill freaking out. The team just does not look interested. Mike McDaniel, he does not look like the guy, even though I think he's a great offensive mind. Culture and the way you represent the team is not his forte. I think this Dolphins team after week 1, because not necessarily just because of this game, but because of everything that has happened over the last couple years, I wouldn't be surprised if after this year they do a hard reset. I wouldn't be surprised if new head coach, they trade Tyreek Hill. I said this on the podcast. I don't know if Tua Tagovailoa would have a insane market. I just don't know if there'd be a ton of teams that interested in his services. Because 1, it's a pretty good draft class these next 2 years for quarterbacks, at least in theory. 2, there's already a lot of talented players at quarterback in the league. The only teams that would even, in my opinion, consider Tua, maybe the LA Rams would, maybe a team that needs, a stopgap like the Colts, maybe. It just feels pretty unlikely. This Miami team might just have to eat the Tua contract and then we'll go from there. They're in a weird spot. I would not be surprised if within the next couple months they do a hard reset. Ricky Rick on Debeat says, once Commanders offense shakes the rust off and if the defense can be a top 10 unit, they will be the NFC favorites. Well, I think after week 1, I still think you have to put the Philadelphia Eagles there. I also think the Green Bay Packers just made a statement. I'm not going to give up faith in the Detroit Lions quite yet, but for now, the Commanders I would have a bit more faith in because of how they looked. I would say right now, NFC favorite, no. NFC champions or making the NFC championship game, it's totally possible. I think the biggest thing that I saw from this Commanders team that checked off a box for me, Jaden Daniels looked like Jaden Daniels. He looked really good, so I feel good about him. Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt, or Bill, whatever you want to call him, had himself a nice day too, which is a positive sign. The defense kept the Giants in check, only 6 points. Of course, you want to see that. So yeah, I mean, look, there was a lot of positive growth from this game. Definitely a bit of a rusty, sloppy game. They didn't play perfect. They made some mistakes, third down especially. But yeah, I think this is a positive sign for the Commanders. Will they win the NFC? I don't think so. I think they will be in the conversation throughout the season, but right now I'd put money on other teams. I do not think right now I would put the Commanders in that conversation yet, but maybe they possibly could. But that is going to conclude this video. If you guys did enjoy, hit the like and subscribe button and let me know your hot takes down below. Love you guys. Peace.